Okay, let's get this live started. Early live for y'all this afternoon. I got an early live for everybody this afternoon. Just let me get all the audio situated here in the studio. Definitely appreciate everybody tapping in for the early live today. Situated. You already know we smoking on some good ass Collins Ave, mixed with a little bit of the Madrina. Actually, that's how we're starting things off. But I wanted to go over a pretty dope topic that actually made me think. DJ Premier actually spoke on working with Fat Joe, signing with Fat Joe under Terror Squad, you guys. And it made me think about some of the possibilities, all the possibilities that could be had in the music industry. I mean, we all know that Eminem went to Fat Joe a number of times. You know what I mean? Fat Joe said one of his biggest regrets was actually never signing Eminem. Now, 50 Cent was apparently supposed to be featured on a Terror Squad project. We're going to be talking about that today on not just an album cut, you guys, but actually the first single of a compilation project that DJ Premier was putting out. So we're going to get into that exclusive today. That's the exclusive we're going to get into today. I'm asking everybody, y'all think, would 50 Cent on Terror Squad have worked? I mean, we saw 50 Cent actually signed to Columbia, and it didn't really move the needle. You know what I mean? Signing to Columbia didn't really do 50 Cent justice. It didn't really do 50 Cent justice. You know, 50 Cent needed two juggernauts in the game. You know what I'm saying? Two major dudes in the industry came together to actually make sure 50 Cent got where he needed to go. We're going to be talking about all that today on this early edition of the live video. That's right. Got an early edition of the live today. Talking about Max B as well. That's right. We're going to be talking about the Big Avel. I know everybody loves to hear updates on Max B. Apparently, Max B is in the camps right now. So I'm going to be talking about Max B as well. So let me read this message that DJ Premier posted, or he actually did an interview. DJ Premier, did an interview on The Breakfast Club, and we all know about Premier. He's worked with just about everyone in the game. Everybody that is a rapper, artist dream to literally work with DJ Premier till this day. He's got a lot of great things going on between compilation albums and working with different artists like Royce the 5'9", for example. Now, he was on The Breakfast Club speaking about his working relationship with 50 Cent. Now, the song apparently was going to drop. DJ Premier had reached out and got the verbal okay on doing a song with 50 Cent before his deal took place with Eminem and Interscope, Dr. Dre, Aftermath, and Shady Records coming together to put out an artist. Now, 50 Cent gets approached. I mean, this is the same man that was in the studio with Jam Master Jay. This is the same man that was, putting in the grind on the mixtape circuit. If he got an opportunity to work with DJ Premier, I'm pretty sure 50 Cent would take it. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure 50 Cent would take it. Primo at this point was actually working with Fat Joe. That's right. He was working with Fat Joe on a Terror Squad album in the early 2000s. And apparently 50 Cent was locked in for a single that was planned to be the lead single, you guys. Onyx had 50 Cent on records back then. You know what I mean? 50 featured with Onyx. 50 had songs on movie soundtracks. Hell, 50 was even doing songs with the likes of Jennifer Lopez back then. A lot of people were coming to 50 Cent before he made his his note on the ground with M and Dre and Get Rich or Die Trying, a lot of people came after to get 50 Cent. So, but one thing that does strike me a little bit odd is that, 50 had mentioned Big Pun and How to Rob. So 50 actually mentioned Big Pun and How to Rob. So I don't know how they were actually going to get the okay to put 50 on the lead single from a Terror Squad album. So getting into the interview on The Breakfast Club, Angela Yee, she actually asked, you were supposed to produce Fat Joe's Terror Squad project. DJ Premier said he signed me to Terror Squad. And we were supposed to do a project kind of like what I did with this compilation album, the way DJ Khaled does albums with his features. So I'm not sure if this is actually the official Terror Squad album, the way that DJ Premier breaks it down there. I'm kind of looking at it like the same way that Fat Joe had picked up Khaled in the first place to actually do compilation projects. I'm kind of looking at it that very similar way. You know what I mean? DJ Premier is somebody that was notable, that was renowned in the game. Fat Joe had outlets to record labels. So that's why, and DJ albums at this point in time were selling. We'd see a lot of them in stores. So to actually work with one of the producers who's out there working with every different artist, you encounter a lot more records. You're working with a producer. Look at the way DJ Khaled works. He's able to put together records, anthems. You know what I mean? We've seen him put together multiple albums. So DJ Premier was given this opportunity with Terror Squad, and his first single was going to be with 50 Cent. So he said, and the first single I was going to drop was a 50 Cent record. This is when everyone wasn't messing with 50 to the fullest because he was having so much drama from after doing How to Rob. And me and 50 hit it off right away and clicked. That's right. They hit it off right away. They clicked. Like I said, anybody that is working with DJ Premier, anybody that is working with an artist or producer, like a Dr. Dre, you are pretty much going to be in hip hop heaven at that point in time. You are going to be walking on water, you guys, when you're right there alongside Dr. Dre in the studio. Everything that you say on that record, it's going to say that, it's going to sound that much better. You know what I mean? Shit, when you're with Dr. Dre, when you go out to lunch with Dr. Dre, I bet you the food tastes better. But Dr. Dre obviously has put a lot of these guys in their elite status. I never heard Snoop Dogg better than when he was with Dr. Dre. I never heard Eminem better than when he was with Dr. Dre. I never heard Exhibit better than when he was with Dr. Dre, you guys. Who agrees? Who agrees in the chat? Let me know. Put it in the comments. Let me know, what was your favorite Dr. Dre collaboration? Because there's a whole lot out there, man. But 50 and Premier, what I was trying to explain, their connection, that's like any hip hop kid's dream. You know what I mean? When any genre of music that you come up in, you have that producer, that influencer, that you would like to work with. You know what I'm saying? Premier was one of those guys for many. So Premier and 50 Cent got together. They decided they were going to do something. They got the handshake deal intact. So when I got on the phone with him, he said, Premier saying, when I got on the phone with 50 Cent, he said he would do the record. And right when it was about time to do the record, boom, we get the call. Fifth can't do it. I'm like, why not? They're like, he's about to sign with Eminem and Dr. Dre. I'm like, no. He committed to us. So Premier took it a step further. Premier actually contacted Dr. Dre. He said, I talked to Dr. Dre. Dre was like, I love you, but He's not doing any more recording until he does his debut album. They had to put the brakes. They had to pump the brakes on 50 Cent doing all of this material. You know what I mean? Even a further down in this interview with the Breakfast Club, Premier will refer to Get Rich or Die Trying as 50 Cent's debut album. Dr. Dre, and everybody knows Power of the Dollar was 50 Cent's debut album. Everybody knows 50 Cent had a ton of mixtapes and even another street album called Guess Who's Back. But when Dr. Dre scoops you up and puts that Premier spotlight on you, Dre, Interscope, they wanted to appear to the world. They wanted to appear to the world as though this is a new product that they're presenting. Something happened when the Game had signed with them. The Game was waiting for a few years, right? The Game signed with Dr. Dre. He ended up nearly on the shelf. He ended up nearly on the shelf until 50 Cent came and breathed life into that project. You know what I'm saying? 50 Cent came and breathed life into the Game project. The game he was waiting around so long that the Game found an opportunity. You know what? I'm not getting the video looks that I really want. Sure, I'm getting shouted out on Beg for Mercy. Sure, I'm in the club video. You know what I mean? In 2004, he would go on to get actually featured on Banks's album, Buck's album. Before, what did he do? Game had to push his foot into the door, you guys. I think everybody knows what the Game did. He recorded the remix with Jim Jones. He recorded the remix with the Dipset Capo, I should refer to him as, Certified Gangsters. He recorded the remix with Jim Jones, and he got his foot in the door a little bit quicker than expected, on a little bit bigger of a scale than 50 Cent had previously. So the illusion was there that 50 Cent's first big record was Wanksta, followed up by In the Club. Not every person in the United States knew that 50 Cent was putting out Your Life's on the Line or any of these records. You know what I mean? He got cut out of the Jennifer Lopez record. Onyx really wasn't all the way at, you know what I mean? They weren't all the way in front of your face anymore. So what is that feature really going to do for 50? You know what I mean? There was just a bunch of different things working against 50 at that time. When he got hit up, Columbia dropped him and didn't release the album as successfully as they could have. 50 was about to go record with Beyonce. We're about to talk about Max B in a second. French Montana talking about how Max B would take the initiative to record music on tracks from the likes of Destiny's Child members. People like Britney Spears' records. What Max B, Britney Spears, what was the Max B, Britney Spears remix? Max B was taking chances. He took chances. Why? Because Max B, he was sheltered. Max B was sheltered when he was with Bird Gang. We didn't get to see the Max B that we wanted to see. So when Max B got out of the deal with Bird Gang and Jim Jones, Max B did everything possible, whether it was recording to Rihanna tracks, like that one Disturbia record, I believe it was called, all different types of shit, man. Max B had to prove that he was going to be a force to be reckoned with. And now we're all waiting for him to come home. French Montana said he's in the camps, man. French Montana said he's in the camps. And then he said the next step from the camps is actually the halfway house. So that's something we're going to have to hope for, pray for when it comes to Max B's situation. So Premier's saying that when he got on the phone with 50 Cent, he said he would do the record. And when it was time to go, when it was time to do the record, boom, we get the call. Fifth can't do it. I'm like, why not? Premier's like, why not? They're like, he's about to sign to Eminem and Dr. Dre. I'm like, no, he already committed to us. I talked to Dr. Dre. I was like, Dre was like, I love you, but he's not doing any more recording until he records his debut album. Yep. And then Premier was like, well, not his debut, because Power of the Dollar is his debut. But signed to them, Get Rich or Die Trying. And look what happened. So DJ Premier obviously could have had a dope record with 50. You know what I mean? Obviously, it could have been a great lead in to the Get Rich or Die Trying album. A lot of times we see that. You guys. When an artist actually is getting ready for his album, he'll drop some promo records. I mean, shit, Nicki Minaj is dropping a bunch of promo records that are actually ending up on Billboard, chart-topping Billboard records. Look at the history of the records she's been doing with artists. And that's how she's building buzz into releasing her next album. That's what the artists do, you guys. But Dr. Dre, at this point, was taking a 50 Cent that was known to the underground, and he was getting ready to shine him up and present him to the industry. They had the story. They just needed to make sure that they were going to get the music right. When you're dealing with somebody from the outside and you just sign over the creative control, you don't know what's going to end up happening. You know what I mean? You don't know if your artist is then going to end up on a record. You don't know if your artist is then going to end up on a record that in turn makes him look bad. You know what I mean? Which I highly doubt DJ Premier would ever do. You know what I mean? Being one of my favorite producers. You know what I'm saying? But you got to just look at the comparison. You got to look at the presentation. Dr. Dre has had a very specific way that he has presented artists, from the way that they presented Eazy-E all the way back in the day. You know what I'm saying? We saw it, how it played out, how Cube and Dre took the reins with that, and they realized Eazy-E can't just be the money man. He needs to be the guy that jumps in front of the microphone and spits it. And even though the shit took time, Rome wasn't built in a day. You know what I'm saying? Rome wasn't built in a day. But they bumped the studio gangsters out of there, just like 50 Cent ended up doing. And it ain't about singing. It ain't about singing that makes somebody a studio gangster. Many gangsters have sang. You know what I mean? When we sit up here and we talk about what gangsters have done and what gangsters haven't done, many gangsters have sung. So that's not even something that we're really debating. It's not really something that we're debating here. Now, there's no, I want to do a little poll. This might be a ridiculous poll. I'm putting up a poll for. I'm putting up a poll. 50 Cent's your favorite 50 Cent album. Two street albums and two big albums. Two of his major commercial albums and two street albums, you guys. Yeah, we saw Dre do it. Yeah, rest in peace to Eazy-E. I would love to get Eazy-E's son on the channel. We had spoke on an interview a few times. I would love to, like I said, I'd love to get him on the channel. But back to the topic, you know, Dre had a specific rollout with Snoop Dogg, from the way that they were presented together on The Chronic, the way that they were presented together before The Chronic as well, and the way that they were presented on Doggy Style. It all rolled out together. You know what I mean? That's one of the relationships that I wish could have went longer. The way that they rolled out the project for Eminem. You know what I mean? How much Dr. Dre actually involved himself with that. You know what I mean? Dre involved himself in the videos. He got with all the wacky comedic humor that we've never seen him involved with in the past. You know what I mean? Aside from a little bit on, you know what I mean? The Eazy-E diss records, you know what I mean? They would definitely have fun at all the pool parties and shit like that. You could just tell that. You know what I mean? You could just tell that. But Eminem helped to put Dr. Dre in a whole nother little element of his career. And then they came together and they got back on the serious tip. Eminem and Dr. Dre came back together, And they almost created the biggest hip hop dynasty that we ever saw. You know what I mean? If 50 Cent and the Game didn't break up, that would have been the biggest hip hop dynasty that we ever saw, you guys. And looking at it from the outside in, Dr. Dre made this decision about keeping 50 Cent close within the camp rather than actually letting him branch out and do projects that would be featured on other labels. We noticed 50 Cent use this same style. 50 used the same style in his own career methods when he started G Unit Records. We didn't see any of the G Unit guys work with artists outside of their camp. You know what I mean? We've heard Banks and all these guys say that they just had so much from within the camp that they could just make mad projects. Yep. So yeah, the 50 Cent topic is dope. Sometimes you got to block situations for the better good of the artist. You know what I mean? Dr. Dre has an amazing vision that I would never question, although we know 50 Cent and Premier would have made a true classic. They would go on to work with each other in the future. And Premier has his legacy that we all look back on every day. You know what I mean? When we hear new Premier records, when him and Royce the Five put out the new projects, which I'm looking forward to, some of their new work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, a lot of shit. Yeah, I'm heavy on Royce the 5'9", man. Slaughterhouse, but his work with Eminem, but also his solo material. He gives me a lot of different elements to his career. Those are the type of artists that I mess with. You know what I mean? Like I said, when I was talking about Banks the other day, when we're talking about the Course of the Inevitable 1 and 2, I was really heavy and hype on Banks after Beg for Mercy. He came out within a year, 9 months time frame. He came out with his own album, Hunger for More. That's right, Gangstar. Exactly. One half of Gang. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Salute to Guru. Salute to Guru. So let's get into the secondary topic. French Montana actually hit Max B up and spoke with him about ending the beef with Jim Jones. So French, it's just like when I hit up Max B about the Jim thing. I'm like, yo, bro, I'm not going to squash the beef with Jim if you still feel some type of way. That's what you call loyalty right there. You know what I mean? French Montana and Max B, they were together while they were blackballed. They were building off of one another while the industry was literally blackballing them. Max B had a record deal that he really couldn't do anything with. I mean, aside from wait for the Bird Gang album to drop, and he was heavy on the Jim Jones features. So he had a few things going for him. You know what I mean? But when Max B was with Jim Jones, you guys, you have to understand that the media, all the DVDs, all that shit was really just starting to pop up. A lot of these signed rappers, they wouldn't want them appearing in the DVDs like that. Yo, what do you mean you're in the DVDs? You are a signed rapper. That DVD better be cutting me a check if my signed rapper is on their DVD. There was kind of like a boundary. You know what I'm saying? There was kind of like a boundary with that. I remember it very clearly. You know what I'm saying? I was on that scene very heavy. There's a clear difference to an underground artist to an industry signed artist. But the reality of the situation is if you're going to call one of your artists an industry signed artist, you better be making sure you're treating them like an industry signed artist. We weren't seeing these guys all over the show. Well, you'd see them in the background. Please introduce these guys to me. Please introduce Stack Bundles and Max B to me like 50 Cent introduced Lloyd Banks and Young Buck. Please introduce these guys to me like Lil Wayne introduced Drake and Nicki. I mean, shit, we only saw every week on BET 106 in Park when a CEO would literally bring their artist out on the show. It's like the most simple blueprint, putting together a record label. You know what I mean? And following the points of it. Stand beside your artist. Stand beside your artist. But Jim Jones had gold. You know what I mean? Jim Jones had gold with Stack Bundles and Max B. Hell, he even had a couple to follow them up as well. He had Mel Matrix. He had He had other rappers as well that stepped in after the unfortunate passing of Stack and Max B breaking away from Bird Gang. You know? So French talked about, he said, he's like, it's just like when I hit up Max B about the gym thing. I'm like, yo, bro, I'm not going to squash beef with Jim if you still feel some type of way. Academics asked French Montana if it was a tough conversation. Yeah, salute to Academics. You know, he's done a couple interviews with French Montana now. French Montana actually had Academics out to his crib for one of his most exclusive interviews ever. You know what I mean? You got to respect people like that putting in that work. You know, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, how tough was it for French Montana to actually address it with Max B, that he was gonna, you know, begin to work with begin to work with Jim Jones, but it would have never happened because French had true loyalty. If Max B said he was feeling a type of way, French was like, it was a tough conversation with him, and it was a tough conversation with Jim because these problems run deep. But Max B was like, yo, it's over. I'm here facing 75 years. I'm fighting for my life. It don't need to be nothing out there that should be stopping me from getting out. So it's all love. And I spoke to Jim, and Jim was like, let's start getting some money. So Jim Jones was open to the idea of actually working, you know, with French Montana. You know, Jim was actually open to the idea of working with French Montana, you guys. Max B said he's going through something a lot more serious right now than a hip hop beef. You know, he's going through fighting 75 years is literally what he was sentenced to. I believe it was parolable after 34, if memory serves, but still a 75-year sentence looming over his head. In recent years, we saw that sentence was reduced. The charges were reduced to a manslaughter. They were changed to a manslaughter charge, and Max B actually pled out to 20 years in jail. Max B actually pled out and got 20 years. It was a renewed sentence from what I saw an article and everything. So Max B has been locked up since 2009, you guys. We're in 2023. You know, Max B is definitely in the final stages of coming home. The last thing I read on an official website where it talks about release dates was 2025. There's a lot of rumors going out there, you guys, of Max B coming home in 2024. You know what I mean? There's a lot of rumors of Max B coming home in 2023. But I'm just going to say the fact that we know for a fact Max B is coming home in 2025, you guys. So that should give us a lot of hope. You know, everybody can keep on going. Everyone can keep on talking about Max B coming home, you know, because it's good. It keeps his name out there. Even French has put Max B on a shitload of records. You know what I mean? He's put him on a shitload of records. French Montana has actually featured Max B on records with The Weeknd. He's featured him on records that have been on his albums. He's featured him on Talking that has been on his albums as well. So Max B is going to be coming home to at least publishing. Max B is coming home to a career, but we all know that when Max B gets home. We all know when Max B gets home, it's just going to be the wave. It's going to be the complete wave when Max B gets home, you guys. So I'm about to put a poll up. I want to know, does everybody think when Max B comes home, do you think when Max B comes home, it's going to be on and popping? But vote in the poll right now, you guys, as well, because this poll is pretty heavy. I want to know what's your favorite 50 Cent album. And I got two of the throwback classics up there, Power of the Dollar, Guess Who's Back. But I've also got the two heavy hitters he dropped, The Massacre and Get Rich or Die Trying. So let me know what you think. Putting this poll up right now. Not bad. Going to get right back into it, you guys. We're going to get right back into it. So, French is like, French said it was a tough conversation to have with Max B about ending the beef with Jim Jones. But Max B was like, yo, it's over. I'm in here facing 75 years. I'm fighting for my life. It don't need to be nothing out there that should be stopping me from getting out. There doesn't need to be anything out there stopping me from getting out, you guys. So it's all love. French said, I spoke to Jim, and Jim was like, let's start getting money. You know, there's a lot of things that they could do together with the beef passing on, y'all. There's a lot of things that they could do together to make the movement strong. Jim Jones and French Montana could do a versus. I know there's all the talk about Jim Jones and Lloyd Banks right now. Jim Jones is going to be doing a project with Joel Santana from what I've been hearing. Jim Jones could do a project with French Montana. You know what I mean? There would be some value to that as well. We've seen French Montana featured on records with Jim at this point. So, you know, what the future's holding is, you know, it's just up in the air right now. What's going to happen? Will we potentially see Jim and Max B work together? Actually, I'm not going to go that far. But when Max B comes home, 2025, it's going to be on and popping, y'all. It's going to be on and popping. Let me take a look at this poll. Best 50 Cent album. Wow, it's no debate. It's no debate. Get Rich or Die Trying is number one. I mean, I would expect that. But we also got The Massacre, 14%. Guess Who's Back, 4%. And Power of the Dollar with 6%. Very interesting. If you're watching this video on demand, put it in the chat which album you actually think is the best between all of those. So, Axe said that was dope, and he applauded French and Max B for that, putting all the beef behind them, both of them being willing to. Academics also wanted an update and a check on Max B. French Montana said he is in the camps right now. And that's the big news that has come out about Max B, you guys. That's the big news that has come out in the last few weeks. Everyone's been saying it. Max B is in the camps right now. French Montana explained a little bit what that means. He's like, he's in the camps right now. After the camps, it's the halfway. He's close to freedom. He's fighting 75 years off, and he's off of damn near 15. So he should be good soon. And French is always asked a certain question whenever he does interviews. Whenever French does interviews, he's always asked about who he would like to collaborate with. French Montana is asked about who he would want to collaborate. Now, this is a guy who's been working with Drake. This is a guy who's been working with Puff, Ross, Khaled, Wayne. He's pretty much worked with the who's who of the music industry. You know what I mean? Throw anybody out there. I mean, he's been on records with, wasn't he on a record with Jay-Z as well? You know what I mean? He's been on records with Jay. He's been on all types of records. So just throw whatever record out there that you want about French Montana. But his joy or his dream would be to work with Max B once again. He said, that's one person I'm looking forward to work with. When people ask me, who do I want to work with? I want to work with Max B when he comes home. Rap singing before people was rap singing. You know, Academics said that he brought a mentality that is more accepted now. He was singing on a Beyonce joint or a Britney Spears joint. Do you agree? You know what I mean? Do you guys agree with that in the chat? If you're watching this on demand, do you think that Max B's do you think Max B's style will be accepted in the current, industry? You know what I mean? Will it be accepted with the current themes that are of popularity in music right now? Will Max B fit right into the thick of things? Personally, I believe so. I think Max B is going to come home and fit right in. If you listen to the melodic nature of the music from NBA Youngboy or Little Durk or Drake, you know what I mean? Max B will fit right in there, man. French is like, that's what I'm saying. I was telling Drake, yo, bro, the only person that would do an album like you did is Max B. And academics asked French about being around Max B while recording. I thought we were about to get a cookie cutter answer for this. Honestly, you guys, I thought we were about to get a cookie cutter answer for this, but French kept it all the way real. Remy, Hennessy, a pack of Newports, and some Dower Diesel, and some Dower. And he put him in a booth, and he's going to hit those melodic joints on you. It's a dope joint, man. French said that he influenced a lot when they started talking about Max B's influence on the current industry. You know, French said he influenced a lot. Just ask a lot of the people from Wiz Khalifa, to Drake, to me. I was always doing my singing hook, my singing vibes. But when I got with Max, I would see myself leaning more towards that. He would inspire for me. But I did before I met Max. I did Return to the Mac, joints like that, straight singing vibes. But yeah, being around Max B inspired French Montana. You could obviously tell, man. You could obviously tell sometimes Max B would say certain things and it would just take an artist a certain place to say them as well. But I want everybody on here to follow me on social media. You know, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate y'all tapping in on these live videos. I want y'all to follow Mikey T on all social media. It's Mikey T _ the movie star. I hope you enjoy these live videos that I'm putting out. I'm covering all the topics, man. I seen DJ Premier talking about 50 Cent. It was pretty crazy how they were apparently supposed to work before the Get Rich or Die Trying album. You know, it got shut down by Dr. Dre. Dre, obviously, there's a method to what he does. 50 became the biggest rapper in the game. 800,000 sales 2 weeks in a row. You can't knock that. You can't knock that shit. And then French Montana explaining how Max B and Jim Jones able to put the beat to the side. We should be seeing more Jim Jones and French Montana. It's a green light on them recording. Max B is cool with it, you guys. So I think that puts that situation to bed. But I will tap in with y'all on the next episode, man. This is Mikey T, the movie star. Follow me on the gram, like I said. Peace.